So everything we're going to do in this class is going to be done in the same Blackboard shell. So lecture, lab, all of it's going to be in here, just in this one single place. Now, when you first log into Blackboard, this should be what you see. So we see a Start Here module. This is where kind of all of the course-wide information is going to be found. And then individual chapters worth of information are going to be found down here in each of the modules. So first thing we want to do is look at the syllabus. So that's going to be found in here. So we will go ahead and look at the lab syllabus. All right. So the first little blurb is basically just telling you what systems we are going to cover. So this is AMP2. So we're in here, we're going to be looking at the endocrine system, the cardiovascular, so cardiovascular system, immune system, lymphatics, respiratory, digestive, and urinary. And then finally, reproductive. Those of you that had me last semester, or those of you that had someone else here, KC last semester, you all had the first couple weeks was dealing with a bunch of kind of non-anatomy stuff, where it was like some basic anatomical terms. And then we spent a lot of time talking about cells and tissues and energy and molecules and kind of chemistry and all that kind of stuff. So we're not going to do that this semester. However, some of that chemistry stuff and some of those cells and tissue things are very much going to apply. So if you haven't had ANP1 recently, I do recommend that you at least look through the chemistry chapter, especially the chapter on pH, or the portion of the chapter that talks about pH. And then especially the chapter on cells and tissues. Kind of pay attention to those because we are going to be talking about the various tissue types in some of these organs because those are going to be part of how these organs are going to do their jobs. Okay, so if you didn't have it last semester, or even if you did, refresh your memory on tissue types and refresh your memory on pH, because literally every single system up here, whether it's endocrine, cardiovascular, immune, lymphatic, respiratory, digestive, urinary, reproductive, all of these will have pH or will deal with pH in some way. Okay. All right. So here's my contact information here. This is the number for the phone in my office, which I'm assuming works. I don't know. I'm never on it. If you call this, you will probably leave a voicemail that I'll check at some point. That's basically because I'm so rarely in there. However, I can be contacted via Remind. So Remind is basically an app that lets you all text me, and I will answer those as quickly as I conceivably can. Now, if you message me at 11 o'clock at night, it won't go off. I won't know that it happened until the next morning, at which point I'll answer it then. But it's usually pretty quick. That is the easiest way to getting a hold of me. So just check the Remind link that is in the Start Here module, and that's the easiest way. I do have office hours, so I'm here on Mondays and Wednesdays from 9 to 10:30. So that's the hour and a half before the first class. That's going to be the easiest way to get a hold of me in person. Sometimes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm here during that same time block. Other times I am not. So usually these Tuesday, Thursday ones are, we'll just say virtual office hours, which means that I am available for Zoom meetings or for quick responses in Remind or quick responses via email or anything like that. Okay. But the easiest way to get a hold of me if you need to do so fairly quickly is through Remind. And that's, like I said, it's just because it basically allows us to text. Now, I do check Blackboard messages, but just know that Blackboard messages are not always answered immediately. I see them when I can, or I will answer them when I do see them, but sometimes I only find out they exist because I get an email. So just kind of keep that in mind. As far as resources are concerned, we do have a book. It basically looks like this if you were to purchase the paper copy. However, you do not need the paper copy. Okay. The paper copies are like a couple $100. Don't do that. That's silly. Instead, we're going to be using the ebook as well as the Connect resources. And those are linked to this particular ISBN. However, if you just tried to throw this into Amazon and buy it this way, it would charge you too much money and you wouldn't actually get the stuff that we need you to get. Okay. Instead, you are just simply going to click one of the links in the Start Here module and it will take you where you need to go. Okay. If you purchased it last semester, so say you had a class here at KC in fall 1, then you should be good to go. You'll click one of these links and everything should work. If you did not have me or have somebody else here at Casey, it may not. But if you did, it will. If not, you can either click one of the links and purchase it directly from the publisher, or you can go to our bookstore and purchase one of the online access codes through them. Okay, and I'll show you how that's going to work here in a second. Everything is going to be done through Blackboard, and we're going to do everything through this single Blackboard shell. So everything is going to go through here, both lab and lecture. So too big. That's fine. All right. So as far as grades and stuff, or you do get PowerPoints, I do post all those, and all that stuff is freely accessible by y'all, so you should be good to go on that front. As far as grades, we have 4 exams. So there are 4 module exams. These are going to be worth 60% of your grade, not 55. I need to fix that number. We're also going to have a quiz for every chapter. We cover 9 chapters in here. So we're going to have a lab quiz and a lecture quiz basically for each one of those. And those are going to be worth around 30% of your grade. These are going to be anything from multiple choice, fill in the blank, matching, and short answer questions. The same thing goes for our practical exams, although the practical exams will also contain some short essays where it's not an essay. It's going to be like 2 or 3 sentences. It's nothing too crazy. Like, I'm not going to have you write like 500 words about how hearts work or something like that. It's a lot more straightforward than that. And then finally, we have another 10%, which are the virtual labs. Okay. So because of the way that this class is set up as far as attendance, these virtual labs are going to be basically how we take attendance. Okay. Even if you come in person, you will still need to do the virtual labs for any given day. That's because we're basically going to use the in-class kind of lab time to do stuff that is hands-on whenever we can. For the endocrine system, there's not a whole lot we can do hands-on. That's basically because I don't feel like torturing and killing a bunch of goldfish in person. I would rather y'all do that virtually. Or at least you get to torture them virtually. You don't have to kill them, which is nice. That's the whole reason why we're doing it virtually. It's because if we did it here in person, we'd actually literally have to kill them every time. But instead, we're going to try and use this time in here to give you all extra time with models, that kind of stuff, supplement the instruction or supplement the kind of online instruction stuff, and do as much of that stuff in here as we can. Different labs, we will have more wet labs that we can do. For instance, on Wednesday, we will have a blood lab, and you can stick yourself with a needle and look at blood sugars, and we can look at some components of blood levels and stuff like that. So we can look at hematocrit. We're going to test your blood types, all that kind of stuff on Wednesday. If you want, you don't have to do that. Yeah, even if you do come in person, that kind of stuff, we actually have virtual labs for as well. But even if you do come in person and we do actually physically stick you with a needle, you will still need to do the virtual lab version of sticking yourself with a needle, just so that we all have the same kind of instruction across the board, but also because it's still going to highlight some of the same stuff that I was trying to highlight in here, and repetition is repetition. Repetition is the most important thing that you can do as far as learning stuff. I know it's no fun, but repetition does help us ingrain some of these things. So even if you do come in person, you're still going to have to do the virtual labs. Every now and then I'll give you a pass and like I'll kind of punch in a number for you if we do it in person. But for the most part, even if you are here in person, we still need to do the virtual labs. So that's our breakdown: 60% practicals, 30% quizzes, 10% on the virtual labs. The virtual labs, if you do them, it should be a 100% every time. So that basically should just be a buffer in your grade built in, helping make sure that your lab grade stays fairly strong. Lab is 50% of the overall grade, so that's a pretty big chunk. It is even with the lecture grade. And the breakdown of grades and lecture are basically going to be pretty similar. I want to say it's 55, 22.5, and 22.5, where the final is basically a big chunk in lecture. Academic policies are found through this link. The link is live, so all these links should work. All right, attendance. So kind of going back to attendance, there are 3 different ways to attend this class. So you're all here in person right now. I have a couple people online in the live Zoom currently. There is a Zoom link in the Start Here menu. You just kind of have to scroll through and you'll see a link that says live Zoom link. Click that. It's not through Collaborate. I just like Zoom better. It's easier for me to work with on my end. So I do everything in Zoom. Click that link. It takes you directly to this page and we're good to go. I also record all of these, and then I will add these and post these into the chapter outlines for every chapter so that you can also see all of these recordings too. So if you wanted, say you came in person, you wanted to watch a recording of it because you liked me talking about something, it's there. If you missed because of whatever reason, it's there. Okay, so you can attend this class either in person, live Zoom, or through watching the Zoom recordings. However, no matter how you do it, we still have to complete the virtual labs. Everybody good? All right. Now, if you do not complete the virtual labs, anything that material, so any material that virtual lab covers that is found in, say, a different, so it's a quiz or an exam or something like that, is a 0 until the virtual labs are done. That's because the state says we have to have like contact hours. We have to talk about certain things. We have to have you coming to class. We have you come to class virtually via those virtual labs, which means if you do not do those, you did not come to class, which means I can't give you credit for that stuff. So we need to make sure that we are doing those. I had to fail someone this summer for not completing virtual labs. They did everything else. They would have had a B in this class had they done their virtual labs. But they failed because they did not. So please don't do that. Don't put me in that position. That was not fun. I felt really bad. So make sure you're doing your virtual labs so that we can do everything, okay? The zeros will go away once you've done your stuff. As far as late work is concerned, there are due dates on everything. However, I understand that life gets in the way sometimes. Kids get sick, cars break down, people get in accidents, all kinds of fun stuff happens. If you submit an exam late, if you submit your quizzes a day late or something like that, everybody gets a freebie on one of those, okay? Everybody gets a free exam that's late. Everybody gets a free bank of quizzes or whatever that's late, because I understand that things happen. I will start deducting points though if a second thing gets sent in late. Okay, so say a second set of exams gets turned in late, now I'll start taking points off. Okay, does that make sense? Just that way we're not getting into a habit of completing things on time. We need to make sure that things are being done on time. Everything with the exception of the finals are going to be due at 11:59 p.m. on their due dates. Okay. The finals, so the lab final and lecture final, those are both going to be due at 5 p.m. And that's just because I need time to grade them before grades are due. Because my grades are due the day after the finals are due, and they're due at like 10 a.m. So that means I have to grade every single exam and then do a bunch of math before then. So I just have to have time to do that. And I'm fairly quick when I can be, but I'm not a magic. I'm not a magician. I'm not a magic. Come on, Matt, use your brain. All right. Title IX stuff is here. Everyone can file complaints. So if any complaints about sexual harassment or anything like that, all of that stuff is going to be done through this link. Just know that if I do hear something, like, so even if I overhear something, or if you come to talk to me about something that happened to you or happened to one of your friends, I do have to submit something. So just kind of keep that in mind. Disability services. So if you have dyslexia or you have anything that I need to know about, I need to know about it as quickly as I possibly can. So say you have dyslexia and you need extra time on your exams. That's perfectly fine. I can do that. I'm more than happy to help take care of you on that front. You just have to tell me. The way you have to tell me is through the disabilities office. So go to the disabilities office, submit all your documentation there, and then let me know. Or even just let me know ahead of time. And sometimes I'll just like do it anyway. While the disabilities office is taking care of it, okay? But you have to let me know. Please don't wait until finals are due before you tell me. People did that last week, okay? So please don't be that person. Let me know as soon as you possibly can so that we can get all of that kind of stuff taken care of. The rest of this is basically just some learning objectives for the course, whether it's course specific or even just kind of overall campus-wide specific stuff. And then finally, we get to some instructor-specific things. The biggest ones of these are do your own work. Do your own work, basically. Don't use AI stuff or anything like that on the exams. The grades are important in this class, but I'm actually pretty reasonable when it comes to grades. These tests are not that hard. They're not that complicated. Just do your own work. I really just want to know if you know this stuff. That's all, okay? I also will replace your lowest lecture exam with the final. So that means the final exam in the lecture portion can be worth like 35% of your grade. So that can go a long way of mitigating any bad exams that you have. And I will also just drop the lowest lab exam. So we have 4 module exams and then 1 comprehensive lab exam, and I will drop the lowest of those that is not a 0. For lab, there's no reason to cheat on these things. I'm very, very reasonable, like I said. So please don't do that. If you do cheat on one of the exam will be a 0, and I can't even drop you from the course. So please don't do that. Quiz attempts, everybody gets 2 tries at all the quizzes, and I take your highest attempt, okay? And that's on the graded quizzes. So 2 tries at each lecture quiz, 2 tries at all the lab quizzes, and I take your highest. You also have some practice quizzes available, both in Blackboard, and then there are also even additional practice quizzes available through McGraw-Hill Connect. So there are lots and lots and lots of ways of kind of getting this information to you and into your brain. So you get lots and lots of practice there. And like I said, I do take your highest of the 2 scores. Exams are given using Respondus Lockdown Browser. If you haven't used this, this is basically just a plugin that goes into whatever browser you're using, which should be Chrome or something like that. Just Blackboard likes Chrome better than it does most other things. It's a plugin within Chrome that basically shuts down your browser's ability to do other stuff while you're taking the test. That's all it is. Make sure you give yourself an extra 10 or 15 minutes before you take your first test to make sure that that can get installed and that is working correctly. But then after it is, you'll just, like, you literally just click the link to take the exam for the first time. It says start attempt, it'll download it, and then you'll click start attempt again, and then you should be good to go. That's really all it is. It should be fairly fast, fairly straightforward. Quizzes and exams, so your actual graded quizzes, not your practice quizzes, but your actual graded quizzes and your actual graded exams should be taken without notes, okay? So no notes, no outside material, so don't use your phone, and no other people. That's the biggest thing, okay? So no notes, no phone, no people on your quizzes and exams. I want to find out what you know, okay? That's all it is. Like I said, they're not terribly complicated. They're not hard. As long as you've learned the stuff that I've asked you to learn, they are really not that complicated whatsoever. Okay. And then finally, ask questions, use me as a resource. This one's big. Y'all are all here in person, which means you're actually here in large part to ask questions. You're not just here to hear me talk, because there are videos of me talking. If you just want to hear me talk, you can do that way. You're here because you want to interact with me in some way. Ask your questions. If you're curious about something, if something doesn't make sense to you, let's talk about it. Sometimes that's when going to be one of the easiest ways we can learn about things. And even ask questions if it's only peripherally related to what we're talking about. So like, for instance, we're going to talk about hormones and stuff today. We're going to mention some steroid hormones. If you want to ask about how steroids work in bodybuilding or something like that, we can talk about it. And I can tell you kind of why people might do those things and what some of those effects are, positives and negatives and all that kind of stuff. And that will still help illustrate some of the ideas behind what we're trying to learn. Everybody good on that front? Any questions, policy, procedures-wise, or anything? Awesome. All right. So we do have a schedule here. It kind of shows you when everything's going to be due. We also have a schedule of the lab. So if you want to see what we're going to be talking about on any given day, that stuff is already posted here. Like I said, we're going over blood on Wednesday. Blood, we do actually have a nice wet lab where we can look at some blood, do some blood typing, fun stuff like that. For the heart, on the 30th, we will actually dissect a heart in here. So that's fun. It's not a human heart. I think it's a pig. But we will actually have a chance to do some dissections and stuff like that. We'll look at blood vessels. So take some blood pressures, make y'all exercise a little bit. On the 4th, we'll do lymphatics and immunity on the 6th. And then respiratory system, we get a couple days. The second one of these will also do some pulmonary function tests. So if you do things like smoke or vape, we'll know because your numbers are going to be very different from those that don't. Our digestive system we'll look at on the 18th. We'll do some stuff on the urinary system on the 20th, and then we'll actually do a urinalysis here in class on the 2nd. So I'll actually have you all ping in cups, and then we'll stick some dipsticks and stuff in it, and we'll look at some values. Like, do we see blood in there? Do we not? All of those fun things that we can tell you what all that stuff means and kind of why those numbers are what they are and kind of why they mean what they mean. We'll do that on the 2nd. Then we'll have talk about the reproductive system on the 4th. Okay. And that gets us to the end of it. If you see November 25th there and you're like, hey, isn't that really close to Thanksgiving? The answer is yes, that is correct. We do not have to meet here in person the week of Thanksgiving. And by that, I mean, we literally cannot. I am not allowed to have you have butts in seats or even have you in a Zoom class that week. However, I need you to take an exam the Monday of that week. I'm sorry if you're taking a big trip. A airport terminal is a great place to take an exam. I'm actually not even kidding. I would love to take an exam in a place like an airport terminal. I'm like extremely ADHD, so like having something that can like actively pull my attention away from the exam is actually a good thing because it lets me kind of refresh. It's like literally hitting the refresh button every time I look away from something. So that's actually quite helpful. Because if I just like stare at something, it's easy for me to like look at one question, read one question like 10 times and like way overthink it. So being in a situation like that where I can just like constantly hit refresh is actually good for me. Not everybody's me, I understand. Nor would I wish that on anybody because I am terrible. All right, so now that we've talked about all that, so if you haven't dealt with McGraw-Hill before, the easiest way to do this is going to be to click this link. This will take you directly to the McGraw-Hill page, and you're going to see 3 options appear on your screen. The 3 options are going to be to start a 14-day free trial, to pay the publisher, I want to say it's like $90 for the 6-month access, or enter an access code. If you purchase the book from, or if you purchase the access code from the bookstore, you would enter that code right there in that 3rd option. If you want to purchase from the publisher and save $5 or $10, you'll click the middle option. Or if you want to kind of wait and figure out which one of those things works best for you, then just simply start the 14-day free trial. But everyone should at least start the 14-day free trial at the start. When that runs out, then you can pick which of the other 2 things you want to do. Okay. But if you've already, like I said, if you took this from one of our other instructors or from me in the 1st semester, then you should just click this and it'll immediately take you where you need to go. Okay. All right. There are some other fun things in here. So tutor.com, y'all get access to something like 7 free hours of tutoring every semester through this for each class. Use this. This is a great resource. Some of the tutors that you'll be dealing with would charge you anywhere from $80 to $100 an hour. So that's basically free money. That's actually very, very useful. So please use that. They are great. Here's the link for the live Zoom class. If you want to figure out how to study in various classes, there's a nice little folder here giving you a bunch of tips. There's also an algorithm. Basically, it says do this, then do this, and then do this, and then do this. If this, do this. If this, if not, do this. So basically, it literally just walks you through how to approach working your way through the material for any given chapter and then for any given exam. Do recommend that. Links to various resources are going to be found here. If you want to figure out how Lockdown Browser works, that's what this link is. Here's some links to instructions for how to get access to Connect, and then finally how to like how Connect itself works and some of the things that we can do within McGraw-Hill Connect. There, okay. All right, then we get down into the individual chapters. So each module, rather, will be broken down into its chapters, and then finally the exams for those modules, okay. Each chapter will consist of an outline, the PowerPoint, and then any virtual labs, and then you'll see the quizzes and stuff down here, whether it's practice quizzes, so practice quizzes labeled optional, and then finally the actual quizzes there. Work through all these things, and then you can work to chapter 18, and then so on and so on and so on. So this way you can work really linearly if you so choose. The outlines will contain kind of a to-do list, what I recommend that you do. You don't have to do all of these things, but you should do really most of them. You really should do all of them. This is also where all of the lecture videos are going to be posted. So these are all just links. They take you directly to a YouTube channel that is set up just for this class. Click the link, takes you to the page, and we'll talk about the stuff there. It also has the activities and stuff that we're going to be going through in lab, as well as any structure lists if necessary. So for instance, here's the list of structures that you'll need to know for this week, basically. So we're going to talk about all these things. You should be able to identify all of these things on models and or figures or dissections. Okay. And then there's basically a list of learning objectives here for the chapters as well. This list of learning objectives down here, so for the study guide portion, is basically for the lecture portion, not necessarily for the lab. The lab is mostly going to be about the identifications of things. Everybody good? All right. With that being said, let's open one of these PowerPoints. All right. So, endocrine system. The endocrine system is our system for long-term control. The endocrine system is going to revolve around hormones. The last quarter or so of AMP1 was dealing with the immune system. Not the immune system, the nervous system. The nervous system, remember, used neurons, and it used action potentials to send messages down the length of those neurons in the span of something like milliseconds, right? So we had reactions. Now, If we need to tell a muscle to contract, we can tell that muscle to contract now, and we can tell it exactly how hard to do so. The nervous system is great at doing things now, doing things virtually instantaneously. However, it relies on changing the ion concentrations of things like sodium and potassium on the outsides of the membranes and insides of the membranes of those cells down the length of the entire cell. That is very energetically expensive. Okay. That is also very targeted. We have to have a neuron connected to the things that we need to change and constantly send those signals if we want them to constantly be changing things. So the nervous system is great at doing things now. It is way less good at doing things over time. Okay. If instead of just controlling this muscle right now in this one couple of seconds or for a couple minutes, instead we want to control blood sugar levels over the course of hours, neurons don't really do that very well. Okay. Instead, we have to figure out a different system of control, just simply because we don't want to be constantly having to send those nervous signals for hours on end. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to utilize hormones. So what a hormone is basically going to be a chemical messenger that is going to get released into the blood and then get transported, because it's in the blood, throughout the entire body. Okay. Each of these hormones is going to have a target cell. Okay. So say we have a hormone that is shaped like this triangle. Okay. Well, that hormone will only cause an effect in a cell if that cell has a receptor for that hormone. If that cell has a receptor for the hormone, these two things can meet, check, it fits, then we can cause some sort of effect in the cell downstream. Okay. Which means we can now regulate what the body is going to do in response to that hormone simply by deciding which cells are going to have the receptors or not, right? Now, that is very different than something like, say, a nervous cell, because nervous cells, we have a direct connection between one thing and the next, right? Neuron touches muscle, period. That is the only way we can make that muscle do its job, is by having the neuron directly tell it to do so, okay? This allows us to have a whole bunch of these target cells in different places. And say they're different cell types. It's another way we can have a cell look. Now we can have different cell types all have those receptors for that hormone, but these are all different cell types, which means guess what? They're all going to have different downstream effects, because these are all found in different places, right? These are all different cells. This is more like a muscle cell. This is a nerve cell. This is a gland. That's a, I don't know, something, okay? Different cells in different places can all have the same receptor and all do different things or the same thing. It just depends on what we need that cell to do from that chemical messenger, okay? Sometimes they will all do the same thing. So all of our cells are the target cells for a hormone like, say, insulin. Insulin can bind all of your cells. All insulin does is lower blood sugar. That's its whole job. Insulin binds one of your cells, at which point we make some stuff in the cell that allows us to pull sugar from the outside of the cell into the cell. So sugar goes from being out here in a high concentration to being now inside the cell. So now there's less sugar here. So blood sugar levels go down. But now we have sugar inside the cells. Why do we have sugar inside of our cells? What does that sugar do? Energy. That's where we get energy. Without sugar going from our bloodstream into our cells have no ability to make ATP, which means they do nothing. Okay? So all of our cells do something whenever they get interacted with by insulin. We make insulin in one place. We make insulin in our pancreas. That's it. One place says, hey, blood sugar levels go up, so let's release some insulin. And then that insulin can bind to literally every single cell you have. That's fun. But once again, some of our cells are not just going to take that insulin in and say, okay, I'm going to pull in sugar and I'm going to turn that sugar into ATP. Some of your cells may be like, okay, I'm going to pull that sugar in and I'm going to add it to my body fat that's in this particular place because I'm an adipocyte, so I'm a lipid cell or a fat cell. I'm just going to pull that sugar in. I'm going to add it to my fat that's inside the cell because I want to store that sugar for later. Or I'm a muscle cell and I'm going to do that same thing. So different cells can do the same things or different things. Just depends on what we need the cell to do with that particular chemical. But if we wanted that same sort of response from a nervous cell, we would have to have a neuron attached to literally every single cell telling it to do this in this one instant in time. And we'd have to do that every single time. That's really, 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 really wasteful. Okay, so it's easier for us to just produce the hormones and produce the receptors for those so that we can regulate things a lot more locally. Okay, as well as over much larger periods of time. Because that hormone insulin can hang out in your bloodstream for an hour or two. Testosterone can hang out in your bloodstream for a day or two. Same thing goes with estrogen and stuff like that. Some of these things can allow us to regulate hormone levels or regulate other levels of things over the span of weeks. Right? Like we all know, like the menstrual cycle, that is nothing but a hormone cycle. That is levels of two primary hormones changing over the span of 28 days or so on average. 28 days. That is how long we can deal with some of these effects. We don't want to send a nervous signal through a neuron for 28 days. That just doesn't make sense. Okay. So that's why we utilize these hormones, because these can last for a much, much, much longer period of time. They last so long because, well, our bloodstream goes to everywhere in our body, right? So if you put something in the bloodstream, it is just random chance that's going to carry it to a particular place or another. There's nothing to say, okay, we're going to have this particular chemical get secreted from this place, send it to the heart, and we're going to send that one bit of blood from that one kind of blood cells or those cells next to it. We're going to send it to this one place. That's not how it works. It's just random. Okay. So because it is just random, there's a random chance that those things go to the right target tissue and find it and then bind it and cause some sort of effect to occur. So that means it can take a little while. But that also means those effects can last for a long period of time. So like I said, these are chemical messengers as their primary role. So we have really long reaction times. However, because we have long reaction times, by extension, we also have longer lasting effects. Okay. Many of these effects can also be very, very widespread. So these are all benefits to utilizing things like hormones versus something like, say, just a nervous connection. So what are some things that we regulate with hormones? Growth, development, metabolism. So how fast you burn things, how fast you make things, or slow. Growing. So whether it's growing lengthwise, growing out, all of these kinds of things are going to be taken care of by hormones. We're also regulating things like blood sugar levels, glucose levels, oxygen, CO2 levels, all these kinds of fun things can be help us regulate or be regulated by hormones, as well as blood volume. And by extension, if we increase blood volume, we're also increasing blood pressure. Okay, so we can help us regulate things like blood pressure using hormones. The cellular concentration, that's to say how thick your blood is. All of that is also going to be regulated by hormones. So as y'all can see, we have really, really wide-ranging effects of a lot of these things. Digestion, all of those kinds of processes are going to be taken care of by hormones, including hunger. That is also even going to be regulated by hormones. And then finally, of course, reproductive activities also regulated by hormones. All of those things are also kinds of things that take a long period of time. Now, to make all of these hormones, we need glands. So specialized secretory cells are going to be found, of course, in glands. But we're going to have two major groupings of glands here. We're going to have either endocrine organs or endocrine glands, or we're going to have an organ or a tissue that also has endocrine function. Okay. An endocrine gland is an organ that is its entire job. All of its functions or its primary function will be related to the production and secretion of hormones. An organ that has endocrine tissues will have other jobs while at the same time also secreting some hormones. A good example of this would be something like, say, your heart. Its main job is going to be to push blood through our cardiovasculature, right? But part of it doing that is going to be to help us regulate our blood pressures, or at least monitoring our blood pressures, and it will do that via some hormones. Okay, so it can be the source for some of our hormones if, say, we have blood pressures get too high or blood pressures get too low or something like that. Okay, so in this case, it is an organ that has a different function, in this case, beating and pushing blood through the cardiovasculature, but it will also have the ability to secrete some hormones. Does that make sense? All right. So our major endocrine glands are going to start with our pituitary gland. That's this little ball right here in the center of our brain. It's kind of an extension of the hypothalamus. Okay. So if y'all remember from the brain chapter, we had the kind of W-shaped region like this, kind of at the base of the brain. This was our hypothalamus. And that was underneath this kind of marble-shaped region with a little dot in the middle that we called our thalamus. Okay, so this region right here had our optic chiasma. And then below that, there was this little stalk. And then finally, this two little bumps, or this big kind of ball down here. This ball is our pituitary gland. So it has an anterior portion. So we have the anterior pituitary gland. And we have our posterior pituitary gland. Okay, so hypothalamus, the stalk that we call the infundibulum, and then we have this little ball down here that is our pituitary gland. Okay, this is going to be kind of our master gland. It's going to be kind of the control center for all of the other hormones or all of the other glands downstream. We will need to secrete hormones from here that will then turn on or turn off the other glands. Okay, and those signals are going to originate either here in the pituitary gland or in the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus has a direct connection to both the posterior and the anterior pituitary. Okay, and we're going to talk about that special connection here in a second. But we can send a signal from here that tells the anterior or posterior pituitary gland what to do. The posterior or anterior posterior pituitary gland would then tell the rest of those glands what to do, either turning them on or turning them off. It's just going to kind of depend on the particular hormone. Okay. Now, also up in the brain region, we have this little W-shaped curve back here, and kind of the back of the diencephalon. This is going to be called our pineal gland. This is what's going to secrete the hormone melatonin, which is going to help us regulate our day and night cycles. So you may have heard of people taking like melatonin pills or melatonin gummies to help them go to sleep. That's the primary job of the pineal gland, is going to be secreting that on its own. However, say you are someone that works night shifts and stuff like that, and you do that a lot. It can kind of get wonky on when it secretes this hormone. So it can kind of mess with your circadian rhythm or your day-night cycles a little bit. So sometimes people have to take things like melatonin and stuff like that to try and help them regulate it on their own because they have that shift work disease. Okay. As we move down, we're going to get down into the neck. This is our thyroid gland. So the thyroid gland is super fun. It's going to secrete thyroid hormone, which is going to help us regulate metabolic levels. People that are hypothyroid or have hypothyroidism aren't secreting enough thyroid hormone, and their metabolic rates are going to be somewhat low. So these people are going to be some of the folks that can diet and exercise and diet and exercise and diet and exercise and still not lose weight, just simply because their metabolism or their metabolic rates are just going to be low, in large part because they are simply just underproducing that thyroid hormone. Or vice versa. There are also people that have hyperthyroidism where they produce too much of this, and those are going to be the kind of folks that will have very low body fat percentages and stuff like that. Like dangerously low, and like they're running through things and stuff like that, which can be a problem too. Okay. All right. Now, on the posterior side of the thyroid, we've also got these parathyroid glands. It's basically these four little marbles, which are going to secrete parathyroid hormone, which are going to help us regulate calcium levels in the blood. Then moving down, we're going to find our ways down to the kidneys. So the kidneys are going to be these little organs kind of in the back region of the lumbar area, so the posterior portion of the lumbar area. of your abdominal cavity. So that's the little kidneys here, these little kidney bean shapes, and they've got these little hats. These little hats are your adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are going to be broken down into an adrenal cortex and an adrenal medulla. Each of these is going to be secreting its own hormones. The adrenal medulla is going to be responsible for things like stress hormones, or epinephrine and norepinephrine, things like that. The cortex will be dealing with cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And then we're going to work our way over here now to organs that have endocrine cells. That's to say that the rest of these are going to be things that have other jobs. Just one of the jobs that these organs are going to perform will also be the production and secretion of hormones. The first of these is going to be our hypothalamus. That's going to be this region, this kind of W-shaped spot right here. It will have other jobs, but one of its jobs is going to be the production of hormones. Our skin produces some hormones. Our thymus is this little guy right here. We'll talk about this when we get to our immune system. Its job is going to be to grow and house and mature some specialized cells called T cells, T for thymus. That is where they grow, that's where they differentiate, and that's kind of where they get tested against each other and things like that. It will also, though, secrete some hormones. Our heart will secrete some hormones in addition to pumping blood. Our liver will secrete some hormones in addition to filtering blood. Our stomach secretes hormones in addition to helping us break down food. Our pancreas, which is this little chicken finger-shaped thing underneath our stomach or posterior to our stomach, deep to it. This is our pancreas. It's also going to secrete some hormones, in this case dealing with blood sugar, in addition to helping us break down our food, because it will also secrete enzymes for digestion. Same thing goes with our small intestine. Small intestine secretes hormones. It will also secrete enzymes for digestion. Your kidneys, in addition to filtering blood and producing urine, will also secrete hormones, in this case dealing with blood pressure. And then finally, we have our gonads, so ovaries and testes. These both have jobs in reproduction, and one of those jobs in reproduction is also going to be making our sex hormones. So things like progesterone and estrogen in the ovaries and testosterone in the testes. Now, we control all of these, or we stimulate the production of hormones in one of three ways. One of these, the first of these is going to be from another hormone. So say we are the thyroid gland. So the thyroid gland produces thyroid hormone. It will only produce its thyroid hormone when it receives a signal from a different hormone. In this case, that is thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay, so thyroid stimulating hormone stimulates the release of thyroid hormone. So stimulating hormone stimulates the release of, in this case, thyroid hormone. So thyroid stimulating hormone stimulates the thyroid gland to secrete thyroid hormone. This is going to be the most common way that we're going to see this. You're going to see these cascades of hormones. There's actually another hormone up here, which causes the release of thyroid stimulating hormone from the anterior pituitary. Okay, so it's pretty often or pretty common for us to see these kind of cascades of hormone releases to cause other hormones to be released downstream. So we call this hormonal stimulation. The next one of these is humoral stimulation. So your body's humors are just simply your body's fluids. Okay, so blood is one of your body's fluids. So say you eat a Snickers bar. You eat a Snickers bar, that's going to put some glucose into your blood. Okay, that's going to cause an increase in your blood sugar levels. That increase in blood sugar levels will trigger the pancreas to secrete insulin. Okay, so based off of the value of a chemical in the body's humors, in this case, the blood, that will cause the response or cause the hormone to get secreted from our pancreas. Okay. The last one of these is going to be nervous stimulation. This is a fun one. So once again, we don't need or want long-term stimulation from our nerves just because it's really, really energetically expensive. That doesn't work very well for our nerves. That's not really what they're for. However, sometimes we need to we want these really wide-ranging effects. So we want to tell big portions of the body to do things in particular ways. So that means a hormone is useful for this, but sometimes we want that hormone now. For instance, yesterday I was driving down the road like 55 miles an hour, and all of a sudden the car in front of me just stops. Don't see brake lights. That's fun. But it just comes to a fairly abrupt halt. I had to brake so hard that my truck like skidded just a little bit. And then I pulled over into the lane beside me. But while that was happening, I had enough time to see, okay, this person is slowing down quickly. My truck does its like braking alarm. But I had enough time to check to make sure that the lane beside me was clear in my mirrors before I moved over, all at the same time realizing and judging how much space I had, checking it, moving over, all while I'm braking so much that my truck is trying to slide. Then I was able to go past the person and really trying very hard not to flip them off because my kids were in the car, and then continued on my merry way while us having not been in an accident. This happened in the span of about a second and a half. Just now. Y'all ever been in a situation like that where you can remember moment by moment by moment, almost like heartbeat by heartbeat, the stuff that was happening in these times? What do we call that? Do we know what causes that? Not really. It is a reflexive response, kind of, but it is adrenaline. We're able to do that because of adrenaline. Why was I able to see the car in front of me, understand where my feet were, regulate where my truck was doing, what my truck was doing in space, while checking to make sure that I was safe to move over, all at the same time, and recognize and remember it all? Why? It's because my eyes went like this. My pupils dilated so I could take in more information. My brain had an impulse or a hit of adrenaline, epinephrine and norepinephrine, so it could analyze this information more quickly, that I could analyze all of that visual information that I'm taking in, the feels of the truck sliding around and stuff like that. All at the same time that my muscles are doing these things and reacting very, very quickly. So my muscles are getting an extra hit of oxygen and extra hit of energy so that they can do the stuff that they need to do. If this was running, this would be very much like I can run much faster than I ordinarily could in this one particular instance. However, all of that is because of adrenaline. Those are all effects in very different places. Whether it's my heart rate speeding up fast, whether it's my lungs taking in a whole bunch of extra oxygen, whether it's my eyes dilating, whether it's my brain taking in all that information. Those are all very different places, but they're all having the effects of epinephrine and norepinephrine or adrenaline. Those are the effects of adrenaline. But here's something fun. If you've had that happen to you, and it sounds like all of you have had something similar, does that feeling of the high from adrenaline go away very quickly? Does your heart rate just slow down like within the next 5 seconds as it go back down at a rate? No, you're jazzed all the way home, right? And then you kind of crash. Why do you crash? Because that adrenaline is telling your muscles to take in all this extra energy and burn a whole bunch of extra energy. That's why you kind of get jumpy and like shaky and stuff like that, because you're burning off all of that adrenaline. You're burning off all that extra sugar that your muscles are being sent. And then, well, now your blood sugar is low because you just burned all this stuff off. So then you crash. But it takes a little while for that sense to wear off, right? Why does it take so long to wear off? Because it's not a nervous cell telling it to do it. Because your muscle can contract and then not contract and we're done. But it's not a nervous cell that's telling it to do this. It's a hormone, which is continually sending this signal. So it takes us a little while to run that hormone out of our system. So that's why it takes a little while for us to run off of that sort of adrenaline. It's because it's a hormone that gets to stay latent in our blood for a while. Some people really like those adrenaline things, though. I've known some adrenaline junkies myself. I got to meet one of those guys that does like some of the stupid like squirrel suit dives one time. That dude was batshit crazy. He's like, oh, it's the greatest feeling in the world. Like, you can't settle down after your land. It's like, yeah, bet not. Because, yeah, no, I'm good. I've gotten adrenaline hits in lots of other ways, but I'm not jumping off a mountain in a suit and hoping that I land okay. Crazy bastard. All right. Now, we have different types of circulating hormones. One of the biggest types is, of course, going to be our steroid hormones. Okay. Now, people hear steroids and immediately picture like Barry Bonds or Arnold Schwarzenegger or any like the big bodybuilder guys and stuff like that. Now, yes, do they take steroids? Absolutely. They are particularly taking one of a couple of different types of steroid. We all have steroid hormones in our body. They're all going to be based off of cholesterol or formed from cholesterol. This is actually why cholesterol is important, or one of the reasons cholesterol is important. Okay. But these are all lipid soluble molecules made off of this kind of cholesterol ring shaped structure. Okay. Good examples of cholesterol based things are going to be things like the stress hormone cortisol, as well as your sex hormones. So your estrogens, testosterones. These are all going to be based off of this kind of cholesterol shape, and they're all going to be lipid soluble. Now, here's a question. Do lipids move through our blood very well? So think about the blood. What is the primary liquid in blood? It's water. So do lipids move through water very well? Do lipids and water get along? Fat and water? No, they don't. If you put a stick of butter into a jar of water and wait 6 months, you will have a stick of butter in a jar of water. They will never interact. So, why or how do these things get moved through the blood? The answer is that we have to bind these steroid hormones, these lipid soluble hormones, we have to bind them with a chaperone. They have to have a buddy carry them through the blood. Because they have to have a buddy walking with them through the blood, they don't leave the blood very fast at all. These can hang around in your bloodstream for a long, long period of time. The half-life of something like testosterone is something like 12 hours. So if I gave you, say, 500 nanograms of testosterone and put it into your blood, okay, so I injected you with 500 grams of testosterone. 12 hours later, you would still have 250 nanograms of that, half of it. Why? Because the only way this stuff can move efficiently through the blood is because it is bound to one of those chaperones. But what does a chaperone do? Does a chaperone let you go wherever you want to go, whenever you want to go there? No, they suck. Okay. However, they keep you safe. In this case, they keep you from exiting blood too early, which means you get to hang around in the blood for longer periods of time. So these steroid hormones, because they're bound to chaperone molecules, can last in the bloodstream for long, long periods of time, which means these are great for doing long-term systems of control, like something like your sex hormones, your testosterones, your estrogens, and stuff like that. Things that we need to regulate activities over the span of months and weeks. That means steroid hormones are great at doing those kinds of things. Now, we also have biogenic amines. Amine. Does that sound familiar to anybody? What does amine sound like? Amino acids. This is a single amino acid, okay, that's been modified. Okay, so we have just one small or a couple small changes to these that make them a little bit different from a single amino acid. Now, because of that, they are acids, right? We have an N over here, we have some O's, which means we are very much water soluble. We do not need chaperones. We move through the blood just fine. And because they move through the blood without chaperones, these are not going to last in the blood nearly as long. They're going to be able to move around a lot more. It's going to be easier for them to find a target cell because you're simply going to be able to move more. Okay, they're also smaller, which means they're going to move faster. Okay, so that is also going to help us get rid of them even more quickly. Okay. Now, there is one exception to this, and that is thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormone is also going to be lipid soluble. So that's going to be part of why thyroid hormone lasts a while as well. We have some extensions of these monoamines, and this is going to be our proteins. Most of our hormones are actually going to be proteins, where we have not just one amino acid, but several amino acids together in a chain. Okay. Now, one kind of fun thing about these protein-based ones is that you have to synthesize these. You make these. Which means if you have a mutation in your DNA that changes the hormone that you would make, you are not going to get the same type of response as someone that has a regular version of that hormone. So some people may have a mutation in their insulin hormone, where their insulin hormone is just different. And because their insulin hormone is just different, maybe it doesn't bind their receptors as well. And if it doesn't bind their receptors as well, are they going to get as much use out of insulin being in their blood as someone else that has a normal one? No. So now all of a sudden we could change, like if we have a change in the insulin, we don't have a good effect of insulin. So someone might have higher blood sugar just because their own insulin isn't very good. Or they could be resistant to their own insulin, at which point they're still going to have high blood sugar. So you can give those people all the insulin you want if they have a change in their insulin receptor and nothing's going to happen. So these are all the types of things that we need to be aware of if, say, we're trying to treat someone for, say, diabetes or something like that. Growth hormone, erythropoietin, antidiuretic hormone, these are all examples of things that are going to be basically just these little short proteins that we're going to use as chemical messengers, i.e. hormones. So like I said, steroid hormones, things that are lipid soluble, are going to have carrier proteins to protect them, so they have really long half-lives, whereas things that are water soluble are going to have really short half-lives and move around a lot more efficiently. This is basically showing you what happens inside a cell when you have binding of a lipid soluble hormone. These are some of the things that can happen with our water soluble hormones. So this is an example of a G protein cascade. Hopefully this looks a little bit familiar. All right. So one big thing that we're going to talk about, or that I want you all to understand, is that we need to regulate our hormone levels as well as the effects of these hormones. So one of the ways that we can do this is up or down regulate the levels of the hormones. That's to say, we can make sure that we increase the secretion of the hormone or that we can decrease the secretion of the hormone. But we can also do this so we can regulate the effects by doing the same thing with the receptors themselves. If we want to be less or have fewer effects of insulin, we can just secrete or make fewer insulin receptors. So we could down-regulate the number of receptors to decrease our sensitivity, or we can up-regulate the receptors to increase sensitivity. So these are both ways that we can up and down regulate the receptors, at which point we can up and down regulate the effects of the hormone. But we can also up and down regulate the levels of the hormones themselves. So our hormones in many cases are going to have interactions too. A good example of this would be our blood sugar levels. Actually, we'll talk about that here in a second. Okay. Now, back to a little bit more of anatomy stuff. So once again, we have this W-shaped region right here. So this is our hypothalamus. We have some special cells in our hypothalamus that are actually going to be connected directly to the posterior pituitary. So one cell will extend between the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. We're going to make some hormones up here in the hypothalamus. For example, antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin. We will make it up here in the hypothalamus, but it will not get secreted except from the posterior pituitary. These cells, because they extend through them, can basically signal the release of those hormones based off of what we need to do. Okay. Oxytocin, for those of you that are interested, that is the hormone that is going to stimulate contractions for childbirth, as well as stimulating lactation. That's all going to be via oxytocin. Now they're going to go down through this kind of stalk region of the pituitary gland. This stalk we call the infundibulum. Okay, that is different to how the anterior pituitary works. So the posterior pituitary, we have a direct connection of single cells in between the hypothalamus and the posterior pituitary. The hypothalamus will also secrete hormones into the blood. However, whenever these secrete hormones into the blood, they will secrete that blood into this little set of veins, or this little set of capillaries right here. That set of capillaries is actually part of what we call a portal system. So a portal system is basically one where we're going to have another set of capillaries downstream. So it's going to go into this capillary, and instead of going into a vein directly, it will now go into another capillary before we get into a vein. Okay? We do this because this is going to allow us to have a direct connection between the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary. I want to draw your attention to a couple things. Notice that we have words up here like releasing hormone. So thyrotropin releasing hormone. That gets secreted into this set of capillaries. That blood containing this hormone then is going to go down here into this set of capillaries in the anterior pituitary, where its target cells will then release thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyrotropin releasing hormone causes the release of thyroid stimulating hormone. So this hormone causes the release of this hormone. Prolactin releasing hormone gets released here, goes through the hypophyseal portal veins into the secondary plexus, at which point it causes the release of prolactin as the hormone. So we have a bunch of releasing hormones up here, which will cause other hormones to get secreted from the anterior pituitary. Okay, so the anterior pituitary makes, so synthesizes and releases these hormones. However, it will only release these hormones if it receives the signal from the hypothalamus that it needs to do so. So in this way, the hypothalamus is still your master control. So your hypothalamus is still going to be what's determining whether or not these things get released. Does that make sense? But we have this little portal system here where we can immediately cause a response of these cells to get released, of these cells to release these hormones, because we have system of capillaries, portal veins, another system of capillaries, so that we can make sure that we release that prolactin right here into our veins so that we can cause that response. So say we need to have something happen fairly quickly, we can cause that response to happen fairly quickly. All through those releasing hormones. Now we're going to see lots of figures that look like this. So this is figure 1712. You're also going to look at figure 17.9. There are several figures that are doing this. I really recommend that you learn these, okay? These are going to be kind of one-page kind of views that will show you a bunch of what we need you to know on each given thing, okay? Because for every hormone, I need you to know where that hormone is made. So whether it's the thalamus or the hypothalamus or the anterior pituitary, whatever, okay? I need to know the effects of that hormone, okay? So what are the downstream effects? So increased metabolic rates or decreased lipogenesis, increased muscle uptake of amino acids, and so on and so on and so on, okay? And how it is regulated. That's to say, what causes its release, or what causes its release to be upticked, or what causes its release to be downticked, okay? So all of those types of informations are going to be found in these types of figures. So this is very, very useful, okay? So where is it released from? Why is it released at the levels it is? So how is that release signaled up, or how is that release signaled down, as well as what are the downstream effects of having that hormone be released, okay? All right, so here we have growth hormone. So growth hormone is released from our anterior pituitary. It is released from our anterior pituitary because of growth hormone releasing hormone. So GHRH that gets released from the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus releases growth hormone releasing hormone, which goes down here to tell our anterior pituitary to release growth hormone. Growth hormone causes a few things to happen. Namely, it's going to tell our bones to grow. It's going to tell our muscles to increase their metabolic rate, as well as increase their metabolic activity and their uptake of amino acids. So they're going to build themselves. So muscles will get bigger. We grow. Growth hormone levels are actually going to be fairly high while we are young. Why? Because we're still growing. However, say you're young and you increase someone's growth hormone levels. Well, that means they're going to grow taller and broader. Okay, that's pretty normal. That's what happens when we get older. We get bigger, right? But say you give them too much growth hormone, they will grow too tall. This is actually how we have people that end up being what we call, or have pituitary gigantism, where some of these folks can grow to be 7'10" or 8 feet tall, which is really, 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 really big. That's also really, really hard on your heart. So these people tend to pass away very, very early because their bodies are just simply too big. Their joints are also fairly weak and things like that because they simply grew too fast to be able to have them be structurally sound. So that is one thing that can be monitored while people are growing. However, the opposite of this is also true. It is also possible for us to have what we call pituitary dwarfism, where people's growth hormone levels are too low, so their long bones don't grow enough. And as this is happening, you end up with people that are going to stay fairly small in stature, and they're going to have the same proportions as a normal, healthy adult would. So their head will be in the same size of proportion to the rest of their body. So they're just going to look kind of like children, okay? This is different from the type of dwarfism from, say, the person or like Peter Dinklage, the guy from Game of Thrones, where he has a larger head, like in proportion to the rest of his body, that is a different type of dwarfism than something like pituitary dwarfism. His type of dwarfism isn't caused by the pituitary gland and growth hormone. If you were to give him growth hormone or something like that while they were growing, they wouldn't necessarily be able to solve those problems or fix some of the issues that they have. Whereas pituitary dwarfism, you don't really see that as much often anymore because it's very, very treatable. You can simply increase the amount of growth hormone that people are taking, so you can give them growth hormone injections and you can kind of help resolve some of those problems. So you can get someone to help or grow a little bit taller. Okay. However, not all of our bones stop growing. Bones like in our jaws, our nose, and kind of some of the structures kind of around our ears. These structures, the cartilage of our ears themselves, these will continue to grow our entire life. So if you give someone that is an adult and whose long bones have fused and you give them growth hormone, those bones will also continue to grow and they will develop what we call acromegaly. So you'll see those bones grow really, really, really large as they are growing, and that's going to be because of their taking growth hormone. If you want to see what this looks like, I recommend that you look at a picture of Sylvester Stallone from 1980, and you look at Sylvester Stallone now in his current show. You'll see his nose is ginormous, as is his jaw, and are some of the bones kind of up here around his ears and his zygomatic arch and his kind of cheekbones and stuff. All of those have grown a lot. Why? Because he takes copious amounts of growth hormone. He takes copious amounts of growth hormone because of the muscle side of things. This way he could put on muscle mass and things like that because he wanted to do that new Rocky movie like 10 years ago. But he kept taking it because he wanted to continue to feel young, but it made his face kind of grow out of shape and be all kind of wonky. But you can see kind of where these growth levels and stuff are going to change. Notice that Sylvester Stallone is down here in his 60s. He should not have very much growth hormone in his system at all. So his face should have stopped growing the way it did, but it didn't because he did this and spiked this whole blood. That's actually fairly common. All right, here we have our thyroid gland. Thyroid gland is super fun. It's going to be found on the anterior of your neck. So if you find your Adam's apples, that's basically going to be this big bump on the front of your throat. So even if you're an Eve, you also have an Adam's apple. Okay, that's what that little bump is there. It's called the laryngeal prominence. It's part of your thyroid cartilage. That's this big band of cartilage right here. So just inferior to that, you have your thyroid gland. So like I said, this is what's going to help us regulate overall metabolic activity via what we call thyroid hormone. So when we zoom in, we're going to see some simple cuboidal epithelium on the inside of the thyroid hormone, or of the thyroid. And these are actually our glandular tissues here. Now we're going to have this colloid region right here in the middle. So it's going to contain this colloid protein. This is actually where we're going to be storing our precursor molecules of our hormone. So pre what we call T3 and T4. So pre-T3 and pre-T4 are the not quite finalized versions of these hormones. We're going to store those here. Now, once we get enough iodine in our blood, we can then convert those pre-T3 and T4s into actual thyroid hormone. Actual thyroid hormone is going to get sent out to the body. We're going to basically increase metabolic activity across the board. We're also going to decrease the amount of lipogenesis, so decrease the amount of making new like lipid tissue, like new fat tissue, as well as kind of, like I said, just increasing overall metabolic rate. So increasing the rate at which we're producing ATP in all of our tissues, so increasing the amount of energy that we have. And all of that is going to be caused by the release of thyroid stimulating hormone from our anterior pituitary. Thyroid stimulating hormone gets secreted because of thyrotropin releasing hormone getting released from the hypothalamus. So hypothalamus is thyrotropin releasing hormone, causes the release of thyroid stimulating hormone, which causes the release of thyroid hormone. However, this is all assuming we have iodine. If we do not have iodine, we cannot produce the final version of protein. We cannot produce thyroid hormone. So that pre-thyroid hormone just builds up in our thyroid, and it grows and grows and grows and grows, and we call this a goiter. This used to be a bigger problem than it is now. That's because we started supplementing people's iodine intake via salt. Here in the States, we have iodized our salt. So that's why if you go to the grocery store and you pick up like one of those big 1 pound containers of salt, it says iodized salt. That's because they've added iodine to the salt specifically so that you do not get goiters. It is to increase your intake of iodine. Now, if you do not have that iodized salt, where are you getting your iodine? So before we had iodized salt, where was most people's iodine intake coming from? The answer is seafood. Okay. If you wanted to get enough iodine into your diet, you had to get it via seafood. So shrimp, oysters, octopus, fish from the ocean. Okay. That is how you increase your iodine intake. But a lot of people don't like fish, and they started eating a lot of things that were not fish. And because of that, they had an iodine problem. So they did not have enough iodine, and thus they would grow goiters. Those are much, much less common now, in large part because we have mostly gotten rid of it because we've iodized table salt, and everybody puts salt on food, and now all of a sudden you're getting enough iodine. You don't need a lot, you just need some. But if you don't want to eat iodized salt for whatever reason, if you're eating like fish once a week, you should be okay. Like fish or shrimp like once a week, that should get you enough iodine. More than that, and you end up increasing your mercury intake too much, and you can get sick that way. Which is sad because shrimp is fantastic. I love shrimp. All right. All right, so here are our kidneys. So here, where do we go? There we are. So we have kidneys here. Posterior portion of our abdominal cavity. They have these little hats on top. Those little hats are our adrenal glands. So our adrenal glands are split into a cortex and a medulla. So the cortex is further on the outside, medulla is in the middle. These are basically 2 different glands. These are each going to secrete very different hormones. We're going to secrete different hormones in the cortex than we do in the medulla. In the cortex, we're going to secrete what we call mineralocorticoids. Okay, these are basically things that are going to help us regulate things like sodium and potassium levels. Sodium and potassium are, of course, also going to be regulated via our kidneys. So it makes a lot of sense that we are kind of doing that all right here. Glucocorticoids, so things that are going to help us regulate blood sugar. Very, very handy. Big example of this is cortisol. Cortisol is going to increase blood sugar. When we release cortisol, that's going to cause us to release or increase the amount of blood sugar that we have, or allow us to have a higher blood sugar level. That way we have more energy in our system or going to our cells to do stuff. However, that doing so is somewhat stressful. We're also going to be releasing some sex hormones from these as well, okay? Primarily our androgens. So our androgens are going to be things like our male sex hormones. However, in females, we will then convert that into estrogen. So we're going to convert those androgens into estrogen. However, these levels are fairly low. So it is important to understand that, like, say, the testes are going to secrete much, much higher levels of these androgen hormones, so of testosterone, than will our adrenal cortex. However, it is still there. Now, here we have cortisol. Cortisol, like I said, is one of these stress hormones, and its levels are going to kind of vary over the course of the day, as well as based off of kind of environmental reasons and stuff like that. But these are going to cause us to break down proteins, to amino acids. So we're going to break stuff down. That's part of why it can be stressful. They're also going to decrease glucose uptake, which are going to make it increase our blood sugar levels. Why? So that we can get more of it ready for the brain. The medulla is what's going to be secreting our epinephrine and norepinephrine. All right. Now we get to the pancreas. The pancreas is this kind of chicken finger shaped structure right here. This is the first branch of our first region of our small intestine. So our stomach would be found right here. So we're just posterior to the stomach. So just kind of right behind it. It has 2 major regions. We have one region that's going to be dealing with making enzymes. That's all this stuff out here. And then we're going to have these little islands inside the pancreas, which we're going to call pancreatic islets. That's going to be these sets of cells here. These are actually going to be the endocrine portions of the pancreas. Now, the pancreas's job is going to be secreting hormones that are going to help us maintain blood sugar levels. We're trying to maintain a range between 70 and 110 milligrams of glucose per deciliter. Okay. If we have really high levels, this can cause lots of problems in our blood vessels and cause high blood pressure. It can also damage our kidneys if we let this happen over long periods of time. It can also, if we have low levels, we can be lethargic just simply because we don't have enough raw materials to make ATP, so we can be low on sugar, at which point we can also see mental and physical impairment, which means like you can literally have an actual brain fog because you simply do not have enough sugar in your brain. If levels get too low, tissues can start to die, which is really problematic. Okay. Now we're going to do this in two ways because maintaining 70 to 110 milligrams is all well and good until you realize that we're going to always be experiencing big spikes and dips of blood sugar levels over the course of our day. So if I give you a Snickers bar, for instance, your blood sugar levels will go up quite quickly. They'll go quite high, which means you will release insulin to bring that number back down. So after you take in some food, you will release insulin to bring blood sugar levels down. However, that insulin is a hormone, so it's going to stay in your blood. So guess what's also going to happen? Is it just going to stop when it gets to 70? No, it's going to keep going down, and it's going to get a little bit too low. And when that blood sugar level gets too low, we need to bring it back up. So we're going to bring it back up with the other hormone, which is going to be called glucagon. Glucagon is going to cause us to increase blood sugar levels. So it's going to start breaking down things like fat or getting us access to glycogen in our muscles, breaking down fat or breaking down glycogen so that we can increase those blood sugar levels and get it back to that 70 to 110 milligrams per deciliter range. Okay, so we lower it using insulin, or we increase it using glucagon. Now, what is it going to do? Well, it's going to cause responses in our liver tissue. So our liver tissue is going to be primarily where we store our glycogen. So if we have an increase in blood sugar level, we're going to store some of that excess blood sugar as glycogen in either our muscles or in our liver. We're also going to increase the amount of sugar that we're going to store as fat. While we are doing that, if we are storing extra fat, we're also going to be decreasing how much fat we are going to be trying to burn. In our muscles, we're also going to increase the amount of uptake of things like amino acids and stuff like that, which are going to help us stimulate protein synthesis. So you need to take in some amount of sugars to tell your muscles to kind of grow or take on extra proteins and things like that so your muscles can grow. Okay, so it is important to put on or put in some sugar to help your muscles and stuff develop and continue growing and things like that, at least at a normal rate. If you don't do that, that means you're going to be burning your proteins as calories rather than having them be added onto your muscles to help you get stronger and things like that. All of that is going to be due to our insulin. Also, we have all of our other cells, which are basically just going to increase uptake of glucose, which means they're going to be increasing their own ATP levels and things like that. The opposite of this is going to be true for glucagon. Okay. Say we recognize that blood sugar levels are low, we will then secrete glucagon. Glucagon tells our liver to break down some of that glycogen that we made. Why? Because that glycogen gets turned into glucose in the blood, so we bring our blood sugar levels back up. Or we take those fat cells that we built with our extra sugar, and we're going to get some of that sugar back out of those. Okay. Also, we can keep that blood sugar level in that constant kind of 70 to 110 range. So if blood sugar levels get high, we release insulin to bring them back down. If blood sugar levels get too low, we release glucagon to bring those blood sugar levels back up. All right. So those are all of the bits of anatomy that I kind of wanted to show you all today. The rest of this stuff is just physiology. So there's a bunch of physiology for this. So make sure you can identify all of the organs. Make sure you can identify all of the hormones, that you know where they're secreted from, how they are regulated, so upregulated and downregulated, and what their functions are. Okay, so those are kind of the main things that we want to work on. So learn your organs, learn what hormones it secretes, and learn what the effects of those hormones are. Okay, so that's really what we're trying to do now. Now, there are a couple of virtual labs for this week. One of these virtual labs is where you get to torture goldfish by messing with its blood sugar levels. All of the virtual labs that you will need to do on any given week or for any given lab. Hey, what are you doing, computer? I did not double click that, you stupid machine. are going to be found right here within the modules. So if you're ever wondering which ones you need to do, just simply click these and it will take you right to it and you should be good to go. Now, if you have not already logged into McGraw-Hill Connect, before you leave today, I at least want you to try logging into McGraw-Hill Connect so that we can at least get you started on the 10-day trial or 14-day trial, whatever it is. That way we can check to make sure that that part is working. And once that's done, then you can study this stuff whenever, wherever you want to do it. Very good. All right, let's get to it. Oh, I do need to check roll though. Hold on.